Good evening. I'm Rafael Martinez, and this will end in darkness, as it tends to. Doesn't it always? Fresh off vacation, well rested, kinda. Back at it. Since I was off of work for an extended time, I figured I'd take off from this too for an extended time. Wanted to really just enjoy my days off. Just get some relaxation in. And it was good. It was good. I had to spend time with some friends. Got to spend time with some family. Great time. One of the things I did do, and will probably be the main thing we talk about this episode, is I attended back-to-back tapings of All Elite Wrestling's Wednesday Night Dynamite. One in the Prudential Center in Jersey. The next in a 20-seat arena known as Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens. Biggest show they probably had so far for Dynamite. I don't know if that was the biggest attendance, but I do know it's a huge show and it's a big deal. New York is a WWE territory, Vince McMahon territory. Not many people have come here and had success, but AEW has. And I think what I want to talk about this episode is what is this company not necessarily worth right now, but what is it doing to make the case that it is the future of pro wrestling, that it is a legitimate competition to one Vince McMahon? That has been a sought after. Well, here's the thing with wrestling fans. They claim they want competition. They always claim it. But often, what they'll do is, when someone's on the way up, they just start criticizing everything about it. They just start shitting on it the way they shit on WWE. But it's like, wait a minute. I thought you wanted competition. If a new brand is arriving, it needs time to grow. But no one wants to give it that time. People forget that Nitro wasn't built back in the 90s, WCW, when they went head-to-head with Monday Night Raw, known as the Monday Night Wars. Nitro was not built in one night. Yes, it had a real big first show, but people don't remember the shows afterwards. As someone who is kind of a WCW mark, someone who watched those Nitros, the first Nitro was great. Lex Luger shows up, fresh off, his contract expiring with WWE. He shows up in the middle of the Sting Flair match, and he's just standing there. And you're like, oh my God, anything can happen on Nitro. Anyone could show up on Nitro. But that's not how it went forever. There was a long period of time where it was like, okay, we got Hogan, we got Randy Savage, we're pulling all these former WWE guys with names. We got Lex Luger. Now we got to build the roster. So they started picking up international talent. They started picking up people who were wrestling on the regional territories. Maybe people you didn't know just yet. The Booker T's, the Harlem Heat tag team. Brian Pillman, who was jumping from Fed to Fed, doing whatever he wanted to do. They picked him up. Guys like Chris Jericho, guys like Dean Malenko, guys like Eddie Guerrero. Guys who would become future stars, they were picking them up when they were nobodies. So when WCW finally starts hitting, when Scott Hall arrives and challenges WCW saying he's got friends coming, and then starts the whole NWO invasion, it's been months before that. WCW was already gaining traction because the matches were better. The gimmicks were better. They were branding themselves of what Nitro was. Unpredictable television, with pay-per-view style matches, with talent you've never seen before. That's how WCW was built. Those other guys were just the topping on a beautiful made cake. What becomes the narrative for WCW is that Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Hogan, a lot of the other WWF exiles raided the company, got creative control, got these huge contracts, and that's what killed the company, but that's not necessarily what it was. It wasn't the fact that, the guy who helped make the WWF's Attitude Era, Vince Russo, leaves, comes to WCW, runs the company, and it goes, to shit. Because his booking is terrible at the time. That's not what killed it either. It was still a profitable business as it was going down. That's the thing about it. Like, it wasn't as profitable as the 90s were, but it was still a profitable business. What was the common denominator in all this was Turner Broadcasting. They did not want wrestling part of their portfolio. Ted Turner liked it. The rest of Turner didn't. They were about to merge with AOL Time Warner. You can't sit there and go, well, we're a certain kind of brand, and then here's pro wrestling. We're all, at the time it's called what it was. It was, toilet humor. It was bloody matches. It was everything advertisers hated. Yeah, it did good numbers, but advertisers hated this. So Turner cut loose with it. They've been wanting to cut loose WCW for years before that. For instance, story that Eric Bischoff tells. There was a Turner executive who said WCW would never be profitable. Eric Bischoff says, I'm going to make this profitable in a certain amount of time. And just you wait. The guy says, if you can do that, I'll get on my knees and ask for forgiveness. I'll admit you beat me. So a Christmas party comes up. Guess what happens? WCW is profitable. This executive gets on his knees in front of everyone at the Christmas party, admitting he was wrong. When you have a corporate culture that way, where they don't even want your product, you're not gonna last. A broadcasting syndicate has to be, able to be comfortable with the programming you're putting on. They have to feel comfortable with what they're selling their advertisers on. And that's not what always happens. The true killing of WCW was a corporate killing. Had nothing to do with what was going on in the ring. Because that company could have gone another 10 years doing what the hell they were doing. As long as they were just an alternative, people would have gone to them. They were still fans of WCW. ECW went out of business and it had fans. They were selling out shows and they went out of business. Because of bad money management. These things happen. Vince McMahon just, he had a very simple philosophy. If it can get eyeballs, I'll buy it. He didn't build Hogan. Hogan was already coming off Rocky III when he was coming to WWF. He's knew how to capitalize on it. He's knew how to merchandise it. Vince McMahon's true genius was merchandising and branding. That's really what it was. I don't think he was necessarily a great wrestling booker. I could be wrong. I gotta do more research on what he actually contributed. But I feel like he had a good team. The Pat Pattersons, the Vince Russos. You know what I mean? The Bruce Pritchards. However you may feel about their failures in booking, for a short time, they were the guys keeping that company together. So 20 years later, here we are. We now have a new viable second competition, or second option. That's competition Vince McMahon, in AEW. And all I hear is the same WCW criticisms. Oh, they're bringing in too many WWF guys. Really? Because here's the thing. When one company owns the industry, it's kind of hard to get talent that they haven't had yet. It's damn near impossible. Big name talent? People think you just build a big star overnight. Oh, just give them the belt. Give them some wins. That's not what it takes more than that. You gotta have someone who's a proven commodity who can talk people into the building, sell seats, sell merchandise, sell meet and greets. I'm sorry, your favorite indie talent can't do that. They just can't. A lot of them can't. They do amazing flips. Love the flips shit. But can they fucking sell tickets? Maybe at the bingo hall, but they're not selling out the fucking arenas. AEW, at a time, how this company begins, I think that's the key thing we focus on. This all starts really in New Japan. New Japan had a club called Bullet Club. And it was a great stable. It was kind of like an NWO for New Japan. Started by Finn Balor, who was Prince Devitt at the time. Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, the tag team, a bunch of other guys that, you can Wikipedia. Do yourself a favor and Wikipedia Bullet Club because they have a great history. Those guys create a faction so cool with amazing merch that it transfers over to America. A purely Japan angle transfers over to America at a time where Japanese style wrestling is becoming more desired, where more American guys are starting to learn it to bring it over. The hard kicks, the stiff forearms. You know what I mean? The kicking out of each other's finishers, to show how fucking strong everyone is. How more evenly balanced the matches can be. That in a world where this is competition and everyone's constantly training, it would make sense that these people would keep up with each other. Scout each other's matches. Know how to beat one another. Know how the finisher happens and just to avoid it. This Japanese style where it's all about fighting spirit that fans can appreciate starts coming over to America. So Bullet Club starts selling massive amount of merch. And at a time where WWE is starting a little NXT program, which is their developmental territory, which is basically their super indie. They're just buying all the indie talent to go, oh no, we're listening to fans. We're buying all those indie darlings you like and filtering them through a WWE lens. A lot of them don't get over that way because WWE doesn't understand why they're popular. They just know, they have huge fan bases, bring them in. But they never stop to go, why is this indie talent popular? What about him connecting with the audience? And why is our product feeling stale? Well, it's because you got a bunch of guys in WWE who are soap opera writers writing 20-minute monologues for guys who aren't actors. They're memorizing lines instead of, engaging with the audience and feeding off the energy and seeing where it takes them. You can almost dodge a Monday Night Raw opening segment because you already know what they're going to say. They'll recap last week. They'll talk about how mad they are about last week. And then challenge them to a match later on or just, skip out on fighting that person that week just to prolong the feud. WWE became very predictable at some point. What started to happen with these Bullet Club guys is the merch was selling amazingly. Their matches were being watched all across the globe. People were looking at New Japan going, this is the wrestling we want. At a time where WWE really needed talent, they steal Finn Balor, who was Prince Devitt. He gets brought into WWE. So, the Bullet Club being a heel faction, they turn on him and beat his ass. That's his reason why he's not in the club anymore. They super kick him, they kick him out. The Young Bucks, do their thing. Junior heavyweight tag team, one of the best tag teams in the world. They had a little super kick party, mantra, and they super kick his ass out. AJ Styles, recent American talent who just left Impact Wrestling, now shows up in New Japan. He's known as the Phenomenal One. Here's a guy that people like. Wait, we've never seen him outside of TNA before. Now he's in New Japan and he's with the Bullet Club, and now he's showing more personality with this than he's ever shown before. I like this shit. Now the group is legit. AJ Styles is well respected. He becomes the champ of Japan. IWGP champion, one of the most prestigious titles in all of wrestling. They get the tag team titles, the junior heavyweight tag team titles. They're a faction to be fucked with. The merch is going off the fucking rack at levels that they said there was never an indie talent that sold so much merch before. And it wasn't even just like one shirt. It was so many shirts. It was hoodies, it was hats. It felt like a movement. Being a Bullet Club dude was just like, you're the coolest thing in wrestling. It's all about being a good brother and putting on some good matches. Being the best in the business. Being elite, if you will. But of course, WWE sees that. They look at AJ Styles and go, we never really gave him a chance before, but he's selling a lot of merch in Japan. And Japan is kind of a hot market. Let's get him. So they take him too. They kick his ass out. They super kick him kayfabe. And now Kenny Omega becomes the next leader of the Bullet Club. Canadian superstar. Some would say he's the best bout machine. That man is amazing. Fantastic talent. Has kind of like an anime heel style. You know what I mean? That's how his promos come across. It can be a little annoying for me sometimes, but I do like it. Like, I do like some aspects of it. I do think he's a great worker. Like, I see it. Like, I see the match quality. I just wish the character matched up for me more. Cody Rhodes leaves WWE. He's going, well, the indie scene is hot. Now's the perfect time to leave there because there's money to be made. At the time, it was the first time guys were making really good livings on the indie scene. They didn't have to sign WWE contracts unless they really wanted to. Because here's the thing, no matter what you feel about WWE, it is always going to be a place that people want to go because it is an institution. It's like SNL. We can all agree SNL is garbage. But to get the SNL spot still means something for some people. It's a prestige thing. I had to be part of SNL. I had to be part of a cultural institution. That's kind of how WWE is. So, you get, AJ Styles going over there. Now Kenny Omega's in charge of the group. But they're more internet savvy. The Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes ends up joining when he gets on the indie scene. They're more, internet savvy. They start putting on their own YouTube channel, their own YouTube show, Being the Elite. And they're really drawing people to shows. Like, even the indie shows they go to sell out. Not even like, main Japan shows. It's like, oh, I'm going to be at this local indie territory in Jersey. That show sells out instantly because the Young Bucks are going to be there. Or Cody's going to be there. Or Kenny Omega's going to be there. They were tapping into something that fans hadn't really been, that fans have been really asking for. They wanted just good matches and entertaining characters. Dudes who felt legitimate. Dudes who felt authentic. They weren't cutting 20-minute promos about how great they are. It was just all about putting on good matches, being the best. And yeah, you have your little, style and flair here and there. The Young Bucks do. They're cocky, they're arrogant, but they're fun. They're funny guys. People say in this business, funny never equaled money, but I disagree. I think funny can equal money. Because funny, whether you hate a person or like a person, you can always go, I'll give him that, he's funny. I'll watch him, he's funny. I hate him, I'm gonna boo him, but he's kind of funny. They weren't scripted. These guys felt natural. Like, everything they doing felt so organic. So they're now becoming their own little brand almost. They all go to Ring of Honor, except for Kenny Omega. Then he stayed in New Japan. It was Cody and the Bucks that went. Adam Cole was a member for a bit too in the Elite. He went to WWE eventually as well. Had massive success in the developmental territory. Exploded his name far beyond anything the Indies could have done. So when you got a guy like Adam Cole, he's on WWE. He's got his own little faction, the Undisputed Era. He's also coming off organic because NXT's trying to mimic the Indies, but not too much. They'll let him flow, but not enough. Though they still have to do WWE production. You still gotta run that promo by us, brother. We gotta make sure it works. So they're all spread out for a brief moment, but when it's just Cody, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks, a light bulb goes off. Man, this brand is hot. People like seeing us do shit. We should do something with this. But it doesn't really come about until a challenge is made by one Dave Meltzer, a pro wrestling journalist. To paraphrase Dave, he said, as over as they are, as popular as they are, they couldn't sell out a 10,000 seat arena. They're just indie. They're just really good, popular indie guys. Because remember, at the time, no one has done it from the indies to get that big just yet. So they take on the challenge. They find investors and they get an arena. And they sell out like that. In hours, they sell out a 10,000 seat arena. And now shit's real. Now they're tapping into fans who have left wrestling. They're weaponizing fans who are indie hardcores, who normally don't go to WWE shows, who normally just bitch about WWE on the internet. They've weaponized them going, well, if you believe in us, then you've got to believe in this show. This show has to succeed to show Vince what this is all about. Chris Jericho, legend, on his way out of WWE feels disrespected, feels like he's not being treated, the way he should be treated. He feels that he could be giving more. And if he is putting all this effort into making his matches great, it should be put higher on the card, which I agree with. No one outworks Chris Jericho in any facet of the business, in my opinion. I think Chris Jericho is one of the very few perfect packages for what a pro wrestler should be. Promos are amazing. His story ideas are amazing. His in-ring work is amazing. His music is always amazing. He does not fail because he also evolves. Like, he's pro wrestling's Bob Dylan. You know what I mean? Every time you think you got Chris Jericho figured out, he changes his character. He goes from being the cocky upstart to the guy who wears suits and only talks in these big monosyllabic words to let you know you're inferior to him because he's such a great pro wrestler. And he's just so smart. Now he's doing the whole rock god thing because he's like a little older now. Like the longer hair, the jacket's kind of cool. David Lee Roth-y. I like it. But now he's on his way out. All right, what am I going to do now? What do I have to give? If WWE is the only place to go, he's done a few spots in New Japan. Can't really do much with that. No offense to New Japan. But New Japan's fun, but it's on the tail end of that Bullet Club run. The popularity was starting to wane because that match style was now in the US in the regular. So New Japan wasn't special anymore. So Tony Khan, billionaire, pro wrestling fans sees what the Elite's doing, saw their show, went, I'm going to invest in these guys. Let's start a company based on this popularity. Let's see how far we can take it. Tony Khan's family owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. Some soccer teams. I think they own a hockey team too. It's billionaires. That was always the problem. There was never a real billionaire that would ever want to take on Vince McMahon. Because Jim Cornette used to say all the time, you want to lose $1 million, start a wrestling company. And he's not wrong, Pro wrestling isn't the most, financially solvent, business. But if you love it, you can make a go at it. And these guys are trying to make a go at it. So Tony Khan invests, and he knows it's a 5-year plan. He says that. This is a 5-year plan to get to profitability. But I think these guys are tapping into something that feels organic in wrestling again. With that money, they're able to get a guy like Chris Jericho to come in, to give them a real veteran face and a name that people know. To go, here's a name you know, and here's a bunch of guys you need to get to know. It's great to watch. You got guys like Jon Moxley, who just left WWE, big star in WWE, decides to go to AEW. So even before they even had a weekly television show, they've got big name guys in this company. Before they even had a name, they had big name guys in it. They were just doing events like they did All In, which was the first event, which aptly named, they were putting all their chips in. Double or Nothing for their second event. I love how they take the gambles of life and weave that into their story, because it is. How often do we have a dream that all we need is to just put the gamble in, put the bets on it. Be willing to put ourselves in a really compromising position of failure. And I remember hearing this about stand-up when people turn down to be able to perform at these showcase gigs for network stuff like that. Oh, I'm not ready for that. I couldn't do that just yet. So you're afraid to fail in public. The problem with that in performance is you're never going to get any better. You have to fail sometimes publicly in order to be stronger for the next achievement. These guys were willing to fail publicly if they had to. They had a guy who was willing to lose money if he had to prove a point that this might be able to work. There was an energy that you don't like. That is why AEW, I think, has become such a very rabid, loyal fan base, and has become, or has skipped several steps that other companies could never get over to become the number 2 in America right now, or number 2 in the world. they didn't have a fan base that was loyal enough and knew that they were developing. They pick up all these indie talents you've never heard of. Guys like Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, you know what I mean? MJF was coming off a hot run in MLW, but once again, it's an indie promotion. Most people throughout the nation didn't know who he is. You got Hangman Page, who's hanging with the elite, but once again, not known on a national level. They bring in Jim Ross, who's known on a national as one of the greatest voices in wrestling. They bring back Tony Schiavone, one of the guys from the 90s who, like, you pick the two best commentators of the 90s and you put them at a desk together. They brought in Excalibur, which I'm half and half on Excalibur. Some days he's great. Some days I find him annoying. They pick up guys like Darby Allin, who have an amazing look. You know what I mean? He's got that, like, you know, that skater goth look, but he's fucking cool, though. You know? Like, his voice just, like, is deeper than what his body actually, like, constitutes. You know? Like, for a guy that small, you don't expect his voice to be that deep. But they pair him with a guy like Sting, a legend. And yeah, one would say, oh, because they have face paint. Yeah, but they're also riding that darkness a little bit, which is kind of cool. They're bringing in all this talent. And it just becomes apparent, oh no, they are guys who love this industry. They are taking legends of the past like Tully Blanchard, Sting, Arn Anderson, and pairing them with new guys of today to help elevate the young guys so they can be a business tomorrow. And going to the AEW shows, you watch it on TV and you get the sense of, yeah, fans love this show. You go on the internet, you get a sense of, yeah, fans love this promotion. But it isn't until you're there that you realize, oh no, all the fans know they're part of the company. If a certain, like, they have this show called AEW Dark that they put on YouTube. Dark and Dark Elevation. Dark matches are usually used to give enhancement talent a look, see if they're ready for the big time. You put them in with somebody who's already on your roster. It's normally a squash, but you like to see if the guy has good fundamentals. Does the crowd like him? Can they get behind him? They put those matches on YouTube because they realize the audience is going to tell us if they like that guy or not. It also helps their whole overall ranking of matches. They have, win-loss records, but they also bring fans into every part of the process. You're going to watch new guys develop here on our AEW Dark shows. You know that we're developing over time and we're going to get things wrong sometimes. We're not going to be perfect every week, but people are so invested in there being a competition. And the guys who are in this company are not the Hogans and Macho Mans and the Kevin Nashes of back in the day where it was all about, I got to be the champ, brother. Or I got to be on top. I got to be the top guy. These guys actually just want to put on good matches and put on a good, entertaining show. The generation is different. And there's just the energy around this company that I haven't felt in years. And it mind boggles me that we went this long without having a good wrestling alternative. The reason why I don't think they end like WCW does is because they're back on TNT, man. Monday Night Wrestling on TNT was a big deal. WCW Nitro did amazing ratings. We're talking millions of viewers every Monday night. When Turner sold to, to AOL Time Warner, and when they were trying to sell WCW, Turner would refuse to give the TV time, going, we'll sell you the company, but none of the TV time. It's what kept Eric Bischoff from really buying it. It's why at the end of the day, when they sold WCW, it was worth pennies than what it used to be worth. Because without the TV time, it wasn't worth much. So when Eric Bischoff tried to buy it, it was just impossible. It's like, what am I going to do with this property that I own? I can't even put it on television. And I can't even find a TV deal for it. Because everyone just is going to this idea that, well, only Vince can do it. So of course it was cheaper for Vince to buy it. He doesn't have to put WCW on television. I'm just going to buy this and see what I get out of it. We got a terrible invasion angle where it was WCW versus WWF, but none of the top guys, because none of the top guys were really signed to WCW. They were signed to AOL Time Warner as talent. And they could choose to sit out their contracts and not come into work and just get paid, which is a hell of a gig. I do not, begrudge them. It's a hell of a gig. I would love to be at home getting paid to do nothing. I did actually, I probably had that experience during the pandemic when I was on unemployment. I know how Kevin Nash felt. It's very nice when you lay around in bed and know the bills are going to be paid. That's right. That right there is acid reflux, baby. You might have heard that. Yeah. It's been rough. But there is something to all this, that they're back on TNT and Turner's not trying to fuck them. Their broadcasting partners are actually leaning into it. I think the world caught up with pro wrestling. The world realized that we all knew it was fake. We never, let's not call it fake. Call it predetermined, because the injuries they get are real. The pain is real. The physicality is, let me tell you, I find it humorous when people talk about, oh, well, they're not really getting hurt. No, they are. There are guys whose necks get broken and who can't wrestle anymore. There are guys in wheelchairs for this business. These guys wrestle 300 days out of the year. Your favorite fighter probably does one match a year, if not two. Not saying he's not a good athlete, but I don't know if he has the endurance these pro wrestlers have. But now they're back on Turner, and it just seems like all the goodwill is going towards this company. All the things that should have happened for WCW are happening with this company. They got a partner that believes in them. They've got a billionaire who's not going to abandon them. And it's a company for the boys, by the boys. And when I say the boys, I know Dark Side of the Ring has come out recently with the plane ride from hell and a lot of other dark stories. But understand, these guys are not those guys. These guys aren't going out partying every night. Some do, not many of them. A lot of them go home to play video games. They go to their hotel room and play their fucking PlayStations and shit. They start their Twitch channels. Drugs and alcohol do not run this business the way it used to. And that's why they're going to be successful. No offense to The Undertaker, but he talks about how everybody's soft these days. But you know what, dude? Maybe it needs to fucking be. Because I'm looking at guys in fucking wheelchairs from my childhood, heroes of mine who can't fucking do it anymore because they were using painkillers and numb the pain and only kept getting more and more injured. I'm watching guys with drug abuse, Scott Hall, dude. Scott Hall was one of the most amazing talents in the history of pro wrestling, and drug addiction ruined his life for a good portion of it. I guarantee you now he'd tell you he wish he hadn't done some of that shit, but now he's better, which is great. He went to rehab. He did the work. But look how long it took for him to get back his life. A lot of guys don't get that. How many of our favorite pro wrestlers have died over drug overdoses? I'd rather this generation of guys than the past generation any time, any day. Because at least I know when I invest in these guys, I got them for the long haul. They're not going to just, one day end up somewhere what happened to them? Drugs. On the side of the road somewhere. There's a feeling in pro wrestling now that's been missing. And it's that the art form can be whatever it wants to be. Before, there was a very classical way of looking at pro wrestling. It's a work. You got to sell it like it's real. You can't have too many funny stuff. It's all about tough men. You know what I mean? Tough men doing tough shit. But we're finding that's not necessarily the case. People, it's what I imagine when Lenny Bruce showed up to stand up. That it's not all just about the punchlines. Now you can have deep philosophical thoughts about shit. Now you can have different styles of comedy. Then you have the 90s alt scene that shows up. The 80s stand-up boom. You know what I mean? We're getting that in pro wrestling right now. Where guys are not necessarily looked at as tough, but looked at as good wrestlers, though. And people just enjoy their character. They enjoy the theme songs. Like now, theme songs in AEW, they're sing-alongs. And they actually get the licensed songs for their wrestlers that they use on the indie scene. Go, no, here we're going to put the money in because you've built this chant on the indies, and now we're going to transfer it to a bigger place. Jungle Boy comes out to Tarzan Boy. Shit's fire, dog. Oh, the whole entire crowd gets into it. John Moxley comes out to Wild Thing. Everyone sings Wild Thing. Chris Jericho has everyone singing his theme song, Judas. When CM Punk comes out, everyone sings Cult of Personality. It's like when you make the audience a part of it, they become more loyal to your brand. WWE for so many years kept trying to tell fans, this is what pro wrestling is. You're either going to take it or not. Vince McMahon once says to Kevin Nash, and people always go, really? Yeah, he said this shit. I'd rather have a half-empty arena cheering for who I want them to cheer for than a full arena of them cheering for people I don't want them to cheer for. That's the guy running the biggest company in the business. So naturally, fans get turned off by that shit. Naturally, they see that philosophy being played on them year after year. So here comes AEW going, hey, fans, you're part of it now. You're part of it. Yeah, you. You at home is part of it. When you come to the shows, you can cheer. You can do your little fucking dances. You can sing along with the fucking thing. It's a small thing, but it's actually a big thing. Because your fans are your best salesmen. I have talked to so many people about All Elite Wrestling who don't watch wrestling anymore. That's gotten them into wrestling again. The merch is even better. Like, the artistry in some of the merch is just fucking beautiful. And I look at how they shoot their show when I was there live. They shoot like an actual sports product. With the way they use their jibs, the way they use, their cuts. It's a real fucking sport-oriented production. And you've got guys in there who are developing at such a fast rate that I can already see 5 years down the line what they can be. MJF is probably one of the best heels in the business. Bar none. The next 15 years, he's going to be the best heel on the microphone. You can't touch him. And his heel in-ring work is amazing as well. That guy is going to be a gold standard. The way we talk about Ric Flair's heel runs, when he would, always find a way to cheat, that's going to be MJF. He's going to have that legendary heel run. He's going to be Ric Flair for a different generation of people. And that's exciting. Recently, AEW signed some big name talent, former WWE guys in a sense. CM Punk, even though he would tell you he's more of a former Ring of Honor guy. Because in WWE, he didn't practice pro wrestling, but in Ring of Honor, he did. Daniel Bryan, he's now there. Christian Cage, he's now there. Ruby Riott, who's now Ruby Soho, in the women's division, she's now there. And all they're doing is putting over the roster that's already there. Back in the day, guys show up to a territory, I want the belt, brother. On the bigger name, I want the belt. They wouldn't give me the belt somewhere else. I came here to get the belt. Because when you're the champion, you're the face of a company, and you get paid better. No shit. But these guys are like, oh no, we just want to have these matches. We just want to do our art form, apply our craft at the highest level, and they are. Every match has fucking consequence because everyone's going all out. And some would say, oh, their style's a little high risk. A lot of them will get injured, a lot sooner. They're not thinking about their retirement. I would actually argue a lot of these guys are actually pretty safe. They're doing some risky shit, but they found the safe ways of doing it. You very rarely hear about injuries at AEW the way I hear about them in WWE. It's interesting. But these guys realize that they are the future of the business. This is the first time pro wrestling guys are running a company. Cody, the Young Bucks, Kenny, they are executive vice presidents at AEW. His wife, Cody Rhodes' wife, Brandy, is the brand officer. It's run by the boys. And that was always a problem at WCW. Anytime the boys wanted to run the business, they wouldn't let them. What do they know? They don't know corporate shit. They're just pro wrestlers. They wouldn't understand how things work. Oh no, my friend. Cody Rhodes, let me tell you something. That dude has it fucking nailed. He knows the fucking business. And he's the best person to have the face of your business. Because he can fucking sit down and talk with Wall Street investors. But he can talk to the everyday wrestling fan as well. He's the mixture of, Wall Street and Main Street you need. Tony Khan's a guy who has a fucking track record. A billionaire with a fucking track record. He makes money. So when he shows up and says, hey, I got a proposal, people listen. That's all a company ever really needed to be a real rival to WWE. I remember just the energy. I couldn't even, I cheered, but I couldn't even really process it because I just wanted to be quiet. And I wanted to just look around, especially at Arthur Ashe Stadium. That big 20,000 people show. You felt it. You felt like big things were going to happen here. And they're just getting started. They have an amazing influx of Latin talent. Sammy Guevara, the Spanish God. The Lucha Bros. You know what I mean? Andrade. Thunder Rosa. They have amazing black talent. Leo Rush. Big Swole. Jade. Powerhouse Hobbs. They have a women's champion who's a fucking dentist. And I don't even say it to be, I'm not saying it to be insulting. I think it's fucking amazing. And she still does a dentistry job. Britt Baker. Britt Baker is still a fucking dentist and also the women's champion of AEW. Fucking, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And she's so good too. What I like about Britt Baker is she knows where the camera is at all times. And it's what gets her the best replays. And it's what's going to get her in a lot of video packages. Because she just knows. She's smart. But she was the first woman they signed at AEW. Her husband, Adam Cole, baby. Or the boyfriend. I don't know if they're married or not. I don't want to assume. I don't want to put pressure on them. I like them as a couple. But they're together. And Adam Cole has now just left WWE to come join AEW. Another big star has showed up. People are realizing this is the cool place to be. And they're getting celebrities. Shaq wrestled a match. Rosario Dawson just jumped on one of the other wrestlers. Another former WWE guy, Malachi Black. You know what I mean? Kevin Smith was there. It was really odd, but he was there. Lil Uzi Vert, Fab was there. I think Westside Gunn from Griselda was there too. People are, here's the thing. WWE has never been able to get back to their celebrity standings other than Snoop Dogg, really, like they used to back in the 80s when they had, Cyndi Lauper and shit. Because Vince doesn't understand pop culture. Because he stopped watching things after a while. He lost track of pop culture. Even his writers, they talk about how when you're in the WWE bubble, you forget things happen. Because your entire life is the WWE bubble. What are we doing? You had no time for anything else. AEW is filled with a bunch of guys going, hey, we like this wrestling thing, but we also kind of have other interests as well. We like movies, we like TV. We're looking at things. What celebrity can we get that'd be interesting? Who's a pro wrestling fan has never been reached out to before? You know? And another thing I enjoy about AEW is that it is so pro boys that the guys can have their own separate merch stuff outside of the company. Darby Allin just had a merch drop for his Hoodlum line. And I doubt AEW is getting a piece of that. That's his own individual thing. If that was WWE, they'd be like, "Oh, you owe us a piece of that. Because we made you popular." But he still sells amazing merch for AEW as well. I'm just flabbergasted. And that's why, like, my impressions, they come off scattered, but I'm trying to convey this aura of what pro wrestling could be. It's nuts. The final point I'll make, and I think it's an important one. Dusty Rhodes was a mastermind of some of WCW's greatest triumphs. Starrcade, Great American Bash, the War Games match. When WCW fell apart, he found himself in WWE, trying to help them book a new generation. He went to NXT, developed the next generation of stars. And let's be honest, ever since Dusty left, they've been trying to replicate everything Dusty did back in the day now. Dusty was a creative genius that, had he been given the opportunity to have a true backing by a corporate entity, I think he could have beat Vince McMahon. Call me crazy. But now his son, Cody Rhodes, is the executive vice president of a company that's giving Vince McMahon shit. And it's like the Rhodes promise is being fulfilled. And I have to imagine Dusty's up there looking down going, "There you go, kid. You're taking it to him. You're taking back our legacy in wrestling." And it's a beautiful legacy. I want to do an episode on Dusty Rhodes one day. We will. Part of the plans for next season. I think they have so much talent, and they have 2 national TV shows to do it with. Wednesday Night Dynamite, Friday Night Rampage. And just the idea of them putting their dark matches and other, with some talent that may not be able to get on those other shows, on there on YouTube. Man, everyone's getting TV time. Everyone's getting a fair shake to prove themselves. It's a beautiful thing. You know, WWE, for all its content, none of it was engaging for a long time. Even the dark matches feel special. And I know that even more so because a friend of mine wrestled in one, Jorge Santi. And it was a squash, but you know what, dude? They let him get some stuff in. They let him prove that he's a good worker. And that's what AEW's looking for. Who can do the best work, but also be very pleasing to the fans. A fan-first pro wrestling company. The last time it truly existed was ECW. AEW is going to take the corporate structure of WCW and the rabid fan base of ECW and make a hell of a company. I'm excited for the future. For people who are criticizing them so early and saying, well, they'll never beat Vince because no one ever beats Vince, allow me to give you this. People will use history as a crutch or as an excuse for their lack of vision. I'd rather people just say they lack vision. Just tell me straight up you don't want competition. Tell me you don't think anything's possible. Because then I'll see where your opinion's coming from. But with a company with this much potential, the lack of vision is not on them. It's on you. So ask yourself the question. Do you want this company to succeed? Or do you just want to maintain a status quo because it's safe? Going by history, you have a good chance of not being wrong. But goddamn, what about that other 25% for having vision and being right? I much rather have vision. But then again, I think we all know how this is going to end.